Okay, everything's soaked. I had to open up the place. I actually was really using disinfectant in here, and as always, you should always be wearing a respirator when you're using disinfectant. I did have everything kind of open, but you know, you spray a little bit too much and it gets a little hard to breathe in here. So don't do that. Always know your disinfectants, obviously. You know, make sure you know your safety data sheet on all your chemicals. I know that's kind of a typical thing to say, but it's true. So, okay, what do I think about the Ryobi 18-volt cordless electrostatic sprayer? The jury is still out, to be 100% honest with you, because I've only used it for about an hour, on and off. I find that if this isn't completely filled, or you lean a certain way, you may lose prime in your hose, so it's almost like the hose is maybe a little too long, because you're just giving a lot of slack for it to get to the machine. I will say it's very quiet, which is nice. It does spray very well, although it sputters quite a bit. I will try some different disinfectants to see if that changes anything. It shouldn't, but you never know. As far as the unit itself, it's not real heavy, but it's you know, it is a bit of a thing to carry around. Now, granted, I got the larger version with the tank because I do this professionally. I found that I like it best on the medium micron setting. I believe that the medium micron setting is roughly, the particles are, I want to say 80, which is pretty much a human hair size. I think the lower version is 65 and the high version I think is 160. I have to check on that. I'd probably never use it on the high version because it doesn't seem like it has enough force to push it out. But it's a quiet machine. I like the way it's designed. It feels great in your hand. Everything's good that way. It does take a bit to prime it. I will, you know, tell you about that. I did have to keep this up higher than this, put this down on the floor versus that. I put a loop of Velcro on here to get it going, is let it run till it primed, meaning that the liquid finally reached the machine and it started coming out. I will say that, you know, it's very difficult for me personally to test electrostatic versus not electrostatic from the same machine. Meaning, you know, we turn it on, we turn it off. I can only do so many things that I can actually capture what's happening between the two modes that it's in. I will say that when I spray it without the electrostatic, I seem to get a lot more puddle or moisture in one direct area versus the other one seems to flatten out quite a bit more. So that is the electrostatic working. It's just very difficult to see on certain things like furniture and things like that. Now, as far as total coverage, I sprayed in here probably, I don't know, 15 minutes ago, and it's still pretty damp everywhere, but we are at 100% humidity in Louisiana, so it's hard to say. I like the machine. I do like it, but I will say I want some more time to test it and get a feel for it. Because like my big fogging machine here, you know, you have to get used to it and know what you're doing with it. This thing, if you're using it and you shut it off and you don't pay attention, you will be pouring liquid out constantly if you don't shut off the valve. You know, there's little things to that one that I worry about and I have to deal with. I have to have an extension cord. I have to have lots of liquid in there because we go through it very rapidly. This doesn't seem to go through a ton of liquid right off the bat, but I can't say exactly how fast of a flow it is yet until I really play with it. I will say that I like it. I do like the fact that it's got a little bit of a change as far as the nozzles go. It gives you a range of microns. It does seem to sort of do the electrostatic thing. It's just very hard to tell because when you're using electrostatic, it mists it out in a way that, excuse me, doesn't get moist in one area in the same way that it does without it. Meaning, if I have it without it and I put it straight ahead, I'm going to get a lot of moisture straight ahead up to the point where I'll leave a puddle, right? Whereas if I use the electrostatic, yes, I will still get quite a bit dead ahead, but it's not nearly as much moisture there and not nearly as much as a puddle, but it's very hard to see where that other material, disinfectant, is going, right? Because it's such a fine mist at that point. So again, it's very directional. So you're going to get obviously the stream in the center and it sputters a bit. So you have to be careful on how you do these things. My rugs right now are pretty soaked in certain areas because I was testing before I got on here. Some of my floor is pretty wet. I've got chairs and all kinds of things out there that I've soaked pretty good. Just kind of messing with the machine. So it takes a little bit of getting used to. As far as I can tell, the electrostatic is working. I just don't know how effective it really is just yet, so I'm going to have to keep working on it. But compared to the Victory handheld unit or the backpack, from Victory, you can't beat the price. Okay, so this was roughly $450, I believe. Came with 2 batteries, charger, the whole unit. The Victory, small handheld one, I just checked and it ranges from $700 to $1,000. The backpack version is anywhere between $1,800 and $2,400, I think, at MSC. So they're expensive. Now, are they any better than this? Jury's out. Like I said, I see a lot of not so great reviews on those. There are a couple other brands that are made, but they're kind of handmade locally in a shop. They only sell X amount per year kind of thing. They're very expensive, but they look like they're bulletproof. So if this is all you do, I'd probably go in that direction. But since we deal with a lot of, we deal with everything from hoarding, cleanup to crime scene, murder, death, trauma, biohazards to clean up. So we have a lot of things that we deal with, and disinfection is one of our utmost important aspects of that. And if in doubt, we hose the place down to make sure our technicians are safe. Something like this, as far as for COVID disinfection services, I would say, yeah, this seems fine. But again, I'd like to really test it out on a few different properties, a few different kinds of things. It's always good to go to a few different kinds of places. You go to a house, you go to a church, you go to some sort of warehouse or business, and you can kind of get a better feel for the coverage of this type of system. So yeah, I mean, I like it. So far, I'd give it a solid 8 out of 10. But like I said, I like to really test things a lot more. I'm super happy that they made it because it could only get better. Will I do something weird like put a sling on this thing and build some sort of hose contraption so I could have an easier way to go? Maybe. I do like that about the Victory. The backpack contains almost everything. The wand is just a wand with a trigger, and the electrostatic is in there, so it's kind of a lighter handheld system. But again, I could buy 6 of these, no, 5 of these maybe, for the price of one of those. So depending on what works and what's better for you, it's up to you. But so far, I really like it. I just really want to test it a lot more, and I will do an update added to this after I get some more time on this. But literally, it just came today, so I'm enjoying it. I just think it needs a little bit more testing as far as I'm concerned.